You look at Jaylee and I from afar, we are pretty stereotypical. Like, you cook, but I do the dishes.
Remembering, like, trying to break down the words self-care.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 15 of the Glued Together podcast. We're so happy to have you back, or if you're a new listener, to be here. Welcome.
Yes.
We love it.
Welcome.
We want to say, love to all of the listeners from our last episode.
Yes.
We got some loving concern, I would say.
Yeah.
Back.
Yeah. Sorry if I look awkward with this microphone too, because we're trying a new angle. So I just hit my chin into it. So
I moved my mic too. I feel like it's just a forever. I watch other podcasts or I see them on Instagram and stuff, and I always see people be changing up their mics, and because it's awkward to talk to a camera, talk to a person, and talk into a microphone.
Yes.
Usually it's one or the other. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
But so we got a lot of love, but also concern.
Yeah. So the snippet of the last podcast that we made into a reel and put on Instagram.
Maybe not the best snippet. I don't know. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, it was just honest. It captured the moment where we just sort of named that it's been really hard for both of us in our individual journeys. And so we were sharing how when that's the case, it's hard to connect as a couple and actually show up for each other when we're both internally struggling in a real way at the same time.
Right.
And so I actually got a text from one of my actual real life friends, in person friends.
IRL.
After she saw the reel, and that felt really good. We have talked about friendships and green flags in friendships on this podcast. If you missed that episode, go check it out. But it felt good to have my friend check in and just be like, hey, I saw this on Instagram, how are you doing? And it's interesting because I'm not a person who ever answers the question with, I'm 100% good. Because I don't feel like that's a real thing in my life. There's always something that I'm going through that doesn't feel 100% easeful.
Or working on even, right?
There's something, and so at this point in my life, learning how to navigate sharing a space is a lot for me. And so, I think that no matter what else is going on that's really great, there's this background music of me trying to navigate something that doesn't feel comfortable to me. So, I think it was an interesting episode release, and we've gotten interesting responses.
Right.
We've gotten immense gratitude while also naming wow, I can't believe you were this open on a microphone. And
well, I don't know who the commenter was. I mean, it was a comment, right? They're going to be watching now. Right. So, it was just an interesting reflection, and Jaylee and I were talking about it, and we wanted to share it today because you're that commenter. Thank you for commenting. You weren't the only person who said something similar to this to us, whether that was in a DM, through a comment on Instagram, comment on here, whatever. What I found really interesting was that I feel like people aren't used to people being in their stuff and actually talking about it. So I was sharing with you earlier, I feel like most times, if this was a normal podcast, okay, not a good one, right? You would talk about it after the fact. You'd be like, yeah, last week I was in my feelings and Jaylee was in hers and we weren't connecting, but now we're all better. But that is such a played out conversation
Yeah. And I think we're both on the same page with like, we can't really do that. And like, it would feel like it would be extra work to try to do that, to try to be fake on here.
Yeah.
Like that would just be a whole nother.
Or ignore some big elephant in the room.
Right.
Like,
yes.
And so I found it kind of cool, even though the reel didn't do as great as our other reels and the video didn't even get as many views, right? Because maybe it's not as like appealing, but I just found it really interesting that it's not appealing. I found it really interesting that people are uncomfortable when other people are uncomfortable, which makes sense. But
yeah, because it's like, wait a second, they're doing it, which means I can do it, and I'm not about to do it. So
right.
Yeah.
And I also found an interesting correlation because what we are doing or what we're trying to do in this podcast is be real. And right now there's like reality TV, right? And in reality TV, you see people fighting all the time. That's like how they sell their shows, is like housewives of whatever, you know what I mean? Like these other rich people fighting over whatever, you know what I mean? And in those shows, everyone is fighting, but it's almost like, I don't know. It was like in those shows, everyone fights and everyone loves it. And we weren't fighting, but I think that like fighting is such a high vibe, a high energy interaction that like when you watch other people fight, like you get a higher vibe. Like higher not meaning like calm, or higher meaning like electric, like you're like, oh my gosh, like yeah, like you're like fight or flight, you're like, what's going on? Oh my gosh, they're fighting, what are they saying? Oh my gosh, I want to hear the tea. Like you're in it.
Right.
But when people talk about like just not feeling well, or I mean, I say depression more lightly, but like feeling feelings of depression or sadness, or just feeling lost and confused, people don't want to hear it. They don't want to see it. They don't want to talk about it. I use an example with Jay and Lee. It's like when you ask someone, how are you doing? And even if you organically are like, no, like really, Jay Lee, like, how are you doing? But if someone's like, oh, I'm actually not feeling that great, been kind of feeling like sad lately, you're kind of, and I'll speak for myself, I'm kind of like, okay, like I'm happy that they just told me how they're really feeling, but I'm not exactly sure how to handle this feeling that they're having. So I try to hold the space, but it's also hard to do. Like I can feel my insides being like, can we get off this topic as soon as possible? Can we get off this topic as soon as possible? This is hard. I secretly just wanted you to say you're fine. So we can move on to a different conversation. And like, I consider myself a deep person. I want to have real conversations, but really sad conversations are really hard to have. And so, so I just, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I personally am at a point in life where I don't want to hear you're fine. And it actually
right. But don't you think that when somebody like, says they're sad, isn't that like a harder...
So if it's a person that I'm not used to navigating sadness with them,
right?
And
so,
like it can
so
feel...
they're just learning us, right?
Right.
Like so,
yes.
that's what I mean, right?
Yeah,
like if you told me I was sad, or my really good friend said I was sad,
super duper comfortable. I'm just saying that like because I'm at a point where like I really would rather
have that
be in that discomfort in order to get across the bridge, and then like you're like, okay, well, this is normal now. This is the new normal. Like we talk about real shit. Yeah.
And I think maybe the other thought about reality TV, sorry, I'm kind of jumping around here, but the other thought about reality, because I just was thinking about that. Like, what are we doing different than showcasing what's really going on when it's happening? But I think maybe on some level, everyone knows reality TV isn't real. Or they disassociate from the individuals who are on the TV, that like that's a character, or even just the disassociation because they're not on TV, right? But like when you talk to people, like YouTube is not TV. You can be anyone. These are real people. You know what I mean? There are personalities. There are YouTube personalities. But I don't know. I'm still kind of like digesting it and thinking about it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not up to date on reality TV. I definitely couldn't even.
We don't really watch reality TV,
right?
but like we grew up when it started.
Anything I do know about it, or any time in my history of my life, like the history of my life, Road Rules. I remember watching that at some point, but like years. I mean, years. But my sense or my experience with reality TV is you see people taking their stuff out on each other and not taking as much accountability for their stuff. And the fact that we were like, yeah, like we're both in our stuff,
right?
And like, I'm not going to take it out on you, but I also can't be there for you in the way that I really wish I could. Like that feels like a new thing for a lot of people. It's a new thing for us even. I mean, we weren't always that way in our relationship. So I think that, there is like a discomfort around it because it's like, so what are you saying? Are you saying you're not mad at each other, but you're also not happy?
Connected. Yeah.
So what are you?
Right.
Like,
and if you're like, aren't you supposed to make me happy as my partner?
Right.
So you must be failing me in some way.
Right. So there's, like those expectations.
Yeah.
Or like, preconceived notions of what couples are supposed to be for each other, you know?
Yeah. So all of this to say, I feel like it was a good conversation.
Yeah.
It's always that, it's always like the thing you want people to watch that doesn't like take off. That's just kind of how it goes, you know?
But
all of this to say, like, we do appreciate everyone who did watch, everyone who did comment and DM. And we just appreciate y'all for like going through this with us. I think that there's an acknowledgement to be had that, it's one thing for us to sit here and have intimate conversation and be vulnerable and also laugh and have fun.
Yeah.
But it is another part of this podcast is our viewers and y'all who listen, who make this a part of your lives and your conversations and the things that you're going through. So just, thank you.
Yeah.
We have reconnected. We are feeling better, I think, right? I speak for myself. Like, we've got other things, like, who doesn't have shit going on? But I think compared to where I was a week and 2 weeks ago, I'm feeling a lot better. I'm feeling more energized. I'm feeling more in alignment with who I really, truly am. And, I'm happy that cycle is fading.
Yeah, I agree. I think, it's all the things wrapped into one.
Yeah.
And I look forward to this podcast and I look forward to recording it and getting your questions. I was so excited about the amount of questions we got this week. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes. If you have a question, you can drop it in the comments below. You can email us at gluedtogetherpodcast@gmail.com, or you can just go to the Google form and put it in there.
Super easy.
That's like
Click,
kind of
drop the question and be done.
That's kind of the easiest way. But before we get into questions,
there's also a way to sign up for our mailing list on there as well. If you scroll to the bottom, you can leave your email and be a part of that.
That's right. And we have an announcement coming on the Friday after Thanksgiving. Exciting. After my 5K that I'll be doing virtually.
Yes.
And then I'll be doing another 5K on Saturday.
That.
2 5Ks. So a 10K. Which should be fine. A 5K is like 2.3 miles.
I don't know.
I think it is.
I don't know how
we
many.
walk like 2 miles. So it'll be fine. It's going to be great. Can we talk a bit about the decor before we jump into questions? Because the scene has been set.
Yes. And it's definitely my glue this week.
Oh, okay. Perfect. What's your glue?
My glue is... we decided to go to storage and get all of our Christmas stuff.
Yep.
And put it everywhere in our space. So, just decorating and inviting the holiday spirit a little earlier this year. We usually do it early anyway, but this is extra early.
Usually like Thanksgiving.
So that feels really good because... we love being jolly.
Right. It feels like home too. It has, so we celebrate Christmas. I wouldn't say like the traditional Jesus is born Christmas, but reindeer, Santa, fun times with family type stuff.
The spirit of giving.
The spirit of giving, the spirit of Santa Claus, as Antler is being taught.
Yeah.
And it feels like a little like home in the sense that like, yes, we have a lot of our own things from our home here, but just like, like this pillow, you know what I mean? Like this pillow was like, this, like all of the little things that we had at our own house. And I look forward to, hopefully, maybe we'll have all of this stuff in our own home next Christmas. That would be a nice goal. I'm not putting a timestamp on that.
Yeah.
I think, but that would be a nice.
That would be amazing.
That would be an awesome Christmas gift. So, So, let us know in the comments. Are you like Christmas music? Love, hate, don't care.
Recommendations, because I love finding new Christmas music that I am unaware of that is its own mood, right? Like depending on my mood, like I'll reach for a different Christmas album or a genre that is within the Christmas spirit. So please send
I feel like
recommendations.
Any song can be a Christmas song. You just have to put those jingle bells in the back. Right? Like that's like the tone of Christmas music. But
ish.
I know some people hate Christmas music though. They're like,
some people hate Christmas in general.
That's
or
true
like
too.
Decorating or like anything that has to do with like getting into the spirit. And
it's true.
There's space
fine
for that. Yeah.
They can do that. We'll be over here holly jollying, making cookies.
Yes, we have
pretending that, the reindeer fly.
We have to make our Christmas cookie schedule.
Yes, that's true. Ooh, we should share our Christmas cookie schedule when we make it.
Yes.
I think that'd be a good one.
Because you can follow along and make the same cookies as us.
Yeah, we can eat the cookies and make everyone jealous.
True.
I like that plan too. The plan this year is to not make too many cookies. That's the goal. That's why we're having a schedule, so we can plan it all out. Okay, we're going to do questions because we talk too much in all the other last few episodes, and we want to get to questions.
Yes.
We want to value the fact that people sent us questions.
Yes.
And we're going to do it.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't say my glue. Does it matter?
What's your glue?
I just called myself out. I don't even know if I know it. My glue, oh my gosh. My glue is that at my day job, we get the whole week of Thanksgiving week off.
It's a big deal.
I had, if I combine all my meetings, like not categorizing them, I had, 22 meetings this week? I'm not even done yet, but I think I have 22 meetings between day job meetings, personal meetings, point of pride meetings, trace meetings, all the meetings.
It's been a lot this week.
Yeah. So I've been counting down to tomorrow. My last meeting literally ends at 5:00. So tomorrow's Friday, by the way. So
yes. Celebrate. Exciting. We will celebrate.
Yes. So when this goes up, your boy will be on vacay. I mean, I still have work to do, but it's a lot different.
Yes, definitely. Okay. All right, questions. Okay, so first question. Do you feel like there has been an imbalance between masculine and feminine energies in your relationship due to being with a trans guy? We have found an imbalance and are currently working on it as we relate to the same relationship dynamics as you guys. So I feel like...
I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely something that we were unconscious of in the very beginning of our relationship, but that was like very present. And as we went along our journey of like self-awareness and, healing, we definitely were like, we're pretty... We kind of hold ourselves in these like gender stereotypes or like masculine, feminine stereotypes where like Aydian would be doing all of the stereotypical man things and I would be doing all the stereotypical woman things. And like, we were just like, ew, like we don't actually want to hold those strict roles. And like we had to name like, why are we doing this? Right. Like, and I know for me, like masculine energy, felt very uncomfortable. Like I prided myself in being super feminine and only doing the super feminine things. And so I gladly handed Aydian all of the masculine energy responsibility, and Aydian gladly took it on until we both were kind of like, this doesn't feel great and this doesn't feel healthy. And, you know, not to say that there has to be this perfect balance at all, but you know, when it comes to, you know, just like simple things, like for me, like driving the car, like I would always like make Aydian or pretty much any partner I've had drive the car, because that just felt like I don't want to drive the car. And like driving the car is like a masculine task, right? It's like to doing. Masculine tasks are doing tasks. Feminine tasks are feeling and intuiting tasks. And so like technically we as human beings, I believe, should be able to balance both in order to find success in our everyday lives. And so there are plenty of examples, but like that for me came up a lot. And I know that you probably have your own examples, but like, I think back when Aydian was first transitioning, it was more common for trans men to feel like they need to fit into like an already created male stereotype or masculine stereotype. And so I can imagine that he felt a lot of pressure to fit into that. And I kind of just supported that. And so I think it just took us time to recognize, like this does feel really imbalanced. And I don't like it, but I also don't know how to change it. And so even now, I mean, I wouldn't say that things are completely balanced, but we both have really tried to take on more of both energies instead of like just one. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree, but I think I want to bring clarity to your statements. So
sure, yeah.
I think that when we think about masculine and feminine, I think if we get more granular and just say binary stereotypes of men and women, I think I just want to get more granular on that. And I want to say that actually throughout, I would say that there's actually some things that when we talk about actual things that you do, right? I think there actually has been more. I think there was a different kind of imbalance in the beginning of a relationship, and I think that's worked its way out. So I think actually like being raised and socialized as a woman, like when we first started getting together, I did a majority of the cooking, a majority of the cleaning. I still, up until a couple of years ago, I did a majority of all of the cleaning, but you started cooking more. And then more recently, you started cleaning more. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that has been balanced. But I think traditionally people would go, oh, a woman cooks and a man doesn't. You know what I mean? And it's funny because it's kind of blurry because I think in the beginning, what I saw more rather than the doing things, rather than like, I take out the trash and you know, I don't know, clean something. You know what I mean? Is I actually saw more of the emotional things about like, well, I'm a man and I'm only allowed to be angry. And I'm a man and I'm not allowed to want things. I'm a man, I have to be ready to have sex anytime you want to. Like, you know what I mean? I actually felt a lot more of those non-tangible masculine energies that were negative to our relationship. And I saw more of those non-tangibles for you too, right? Like, because even the whole driving the car, it's one thing to not want to drive the car, but you were just like, you didn't want to navigate. There was no sense of wanting to, like, you wanted to just be, oh, well, like, I don't know. Like, I'm a girl. What do I know? Right? Like, I don't know how to get there, and like, so I saw more of the imbalance of like, okay, well, it's my responsibility to like navigate and to, to be the one that keeps us safe and the one, like all of those non-actionable ones. And what I've seen actually more recently is like, when you look at Jaylee and I from afar, we are pretty stereotypical. Like, you cook, but I do the dishes. You know what I mean? Like, but we both do a lot of other things together. You know what I mean? I still mostly drive, but you drive a lot too. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So,
well, a lot of it has been me facing my fears, and I think for you as well, right? Like, because like I had to name, like
it's been you. I think it's been you. Sorry to cut you off, but I just really feel like it's been you grabbing life by the fucking horns and being
is a
like
masculine thing, right? Like,
right. But it's an energetic thing rather than like well, I do this and they do that, and But and I've been allowing myself to soften and allowing myself to be more like, you know what, I'm not okay with this, and I have emotion right now, and you're gonna hear about my emotions. You know what I mean? And I actually don't want that, right? Like, so and being like, you know what, this, oh, there's a dilemma. Oh, I have to fix it. It's like, no, like, we're going to figure out what the answer to this is, and we're going to do it together. I'm going to take on some, and you're going to be responsible for something.
Right.
I'm not just going to do it all. Think about this podcast. Like, we're still working on this. Like, this podcast, I was like, oh, well, I'll do this, and I'll do that, and I'll do that. And then, like, as we did a couple episodes, I was like, Jaylee, like, I need you to do more. I need you to do this. But it's not like Jaylee said I'm not doing it. It's just I was, like, used to taking it all on. You know what I mean? And I think that's what I think a lot of men do, is you take it all on. You're like, there's a problem or there's a thing that needs to get done. I'm going to take it all on. Right. Even like, so I know that this is kind of like a messy answer, but
yeah,
that was all of the messiness.
It's kind of a messy topic, to be honest. And there's a lot, masculine and feminine are loaded terms, right?
True.
And so
what does that even
guess,
mean?
The way that I view them can be very different from the way that you all view them. And that's okay. Like, for me trying to step more into my masculine energy has been me trying to be more action oriented and not allowing myself to get lost in emotion and feeling. And finding more balance where it's like, okay, I'm going to feel and then I'm going to act, and I'm going to feel and I'm going to act, and I'm going to feel and I'm going to act.
Instead of just like feeling and then nothing.
Yeah, because I think that I just had to notice that me just feeling and not taking those feelings and actually putting action behind them was negatively affecting me and our family. And
yeah, because it put pressure on me to be the action one. And I'm already being actionable because just like you're doing feeling and action, I'm trying to do, you're trying to do more action. I'm trying to do more feeling because all I'm doing is action. And I'm not allowing myself to feel because I've subconsciously been like, well, I'm a man, and people see me as a man, and like, if there is a bump in the night, I've just got to man the fuck up and get out there and fight it. You know what I mean? And like, granted, I still do that, but I am always like, I'm scared, but I'm going to go.
Yeah.
I'm going to go do this. It's going to happen. You know what I mean?
And me recognizing, like, I don't want you to feel like you don't have space to feel. And that you don't have space to
or making you do all the feeling.
Right.
Being like, you write the birthday card, you say the thing that's important, you do the thing, you know what I mean? And just being like, I can also have the feeling, and allowing you to do the action and trusting. That was another thing, was like, you started doing more action, and I had to I would micromanage the action.
Right.
And I was like, but you're not doing it right. You got to do it this way. And it's like, you got to do your action, how you're going to do it. So
it's uncomfortable. It's not comfortable to change whatever dominant energy you have. And if you don't have one that's more dominant and you have this like awesome balance, then amazing. That's amazing.
That's not the question. They're not saying that. They're saying they don't have a balance.
No, I know, but I'm just speaking to the audience in general. Like maybe you do have a balance, and that's amazing. And this is something that we've struggled with.
Yeah,
and continue to work on.
Yeah, and I think the last thing I'll just put in this, which is the transness, is like you were saying earlier, and I want to echo is, it is gender. I know it sounds silly, but like there's like gender euphoria in my role of waking up in the middle of the night and being the one to go out. Because it's just, I don't know what it is. It's doing some stereotypical manly things does bring gender euphoria, because it's like you were taught that you can't do these things, and so I think that is confusing and can be conflicting, because then all of a sudden you're like, well, now I'm doing all of the things, and now I'm expected to do all of the things, and like we need to reverse this, so we need to fix this, what's going on. So so I know you touched on that, but I wanted to elaborate.
Yeah, and looking back, like the amount of traveling that Aydian has done over the years for work at different times, I've had to go it alone for days at a time, and it's really helped me practice like developing those muscles of like, I can do it. I can get up in the middle of the night if there's a bump or like whatever. And so, I think that we're talking in a lot of stereotypes, because I think that that's the culture that we were conditioned in. But I also feel like no matter what your gender identity or expression is, that you can embody masculine and feminine energies, or like binaries, like you said, in any way that feels good to you. And I think that finding balance is just something that we're trying to do, because that feels helpful.
Yeah. And I mean, I think we have found balance. It's just, I think with any scale, like it tips, and I think overall we're balanced, but I think it does tip, and we just have to call each other in on that. But sure. I mean, I think for this, it's like you got to have the conversation. Yeah. You just got to say like, whatever you're feeling, there's probably some reflection back in the other person that they may be feeling similar to, or, you know what I mean? Or like, if they're being like too manly, just be like, bro, you need to chill out. Like, tone it down. You're fine. Okay? Like, tone it down, bro. You're good.
Totally. Thank you for this question. So the next question says, how often do y'all have sex, and how has parenting and Aydian's transition affected this?
I guess we set ourselves up for this. We didn't know this was going to be a sex podcast.
No, but I mean,
no, we didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about this in a couple of episodes in different ways, but I think ultimately, like, it depends on the week you're asking us,
right? Because
it really does.
Sometimes it's hot and heavy, and sometimes it's
like a
desert.
And with us, like, everybody's dynamic is different, and everybody's energy as a couple is different. And I could talk for hours about the astrology of that, but I won't. So Aydian and I are one or the other. Like, we're either doing it all week or not doing it at all. So it's like, that's just how we are.
It's like, get on the boat, or get the fuck off.
Yeah. And it has to do with like what we personally are dealing with, which is what we talked about on the last podcast. And so I think it really depends. And so I think that what I want people to take away is that, like, comparing yourself to another couple is not a good idea, because each couple has a different dynamic, a different energy. And it's really about like expressing your truth around what your needs are, and like, being able to share that with your partner. And, because like sometimes we're just not on the same page, and there's disappointment around that. It's like, okay, well, I'm kind of disappointed, and I get it. Right. Like, you just can't do it tonight, or you're just not, you can't get yourself in the mood, or whatever. I
feel like if we had to put a timeline on it, the first 2 years, like most couples, all the time, just hitting it off all the time, right? Then, you get like 4, 5 years in, it's more steady. It's like, it's not like every day, but a couple times a week. You've got influx, a little slower, periods. Then we had the baby, and then it was kind of like really not that much in those first 6 to 8 months. I mean, I think at one point we went like a whole month, maybe.
Yeah.
I think we went like 4 weeks without having sex.
Yeah.
But then I would say, slowly started to pick back up, which we tapped into in some other episodes about putting it on the schedule, and that was awkward, but still doing it.
Right. And now it's just like expected that it's on the schedule.
Yeah.
Because that's just what works now.
Yeah. And then, and usually the baby's like still coming into the bed with you at night. Like, you try to put it asleep and it comes into your bed. And so, you know what I mean? But then I would say, by the time Antler was 3, so I would say like between that first year of those first 12 months of having the kid, it's very like hit or miss, like, and you're emotional. You're like going through all of these things because you're like, what happened to us? You're like, are we even like, what is this? You're tired. You don't understand your baby. You're trying to manage all these things. You're like going through all of your own existential things. You know what I mean? You're in a totally new reality. Everything shifts. Even your brain, chemicals in your brain change like when you have a child. So, and then, years like, after the first year, it's like years 1 through 3 are kind of like that navigating space that we were just talking about, scheduling in, being like, we don't have any time, but then also being tired and being like, I want to have sex, but I kind of just want to have a glass of wine and watch Netflix, and I can't tell which one I want to do more. You know what I mean?
There's more honesty.
Yeah.
About
if you can be, I think some people won't just say it. Like we got into the habit of just being like, do you want to have sex tonight? And just asking each other and then being like, I'm open. Like, I'm not like feeling it, but I could do that. Or being like, I just really don't want to. Or being like, yes, I do. Let's make a plan. You know what I mean? But that's kind of now, right? That's 5 years after.
Right.
But it started picking back up like around that between 3 and 4. I mean, I'm just giving roundabouts. Wouldn't you, like, I'm trying to give a timeline here.
Yeah, and we're at a point now
where like... A flow chart of our sexual...
We're just at a point now where like our living situation, it's like there's always going to be a reason like or something in the way that we could make an excuse about. And so we're just lately being like, there's ways to work around all of this.
Right.
Do we want to?
That's a new plan.
And so that's kind of like what we're doing.
Yeah.
And you got to go with what feels good to you.
Yeah.
For sure.
But I would say that would be like it's like...
I'm like awkwardly navigating my mic again because
Me too.
My legs started to fall asleep. So like now I'm like,
what do we do? Do we have to have the mics that drop from the ceiling?
Maybe that's a goal. Yeah.
Maybe we just need, I see some people, they have like 4 different arms. So it's like you can go up, down, over, and then right in front of your face.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know. I know. Well, like the video so we can get new mic stands.
Yes, seriously. Share the video. Promote the video.
I know. But you want to do some financial transparency of how much we make on the podcast?
Sure.
On YouTube, including my vlogs I've been posting the last 90 days, we made $88 and like 18 cents or something.
Yeah, baby.
So yeah, baby. Yeah.
Let's
keep
that,
it going. Let's get to 100.
Keep that going.
Let's do it. I mean, that's almost $1 a day. I'll take it. We're trying to save for that house. We will take $1 a day. I will take that. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
We have to answer more questions, some more episodes. I like this.
Yeah.
I love how like we have different answers but they always come back to the same thing. It's like our brains go on different wavelengths to kind of come back to the same answer itself. But we're like, oh, I thought this and I thought that. Oh, but yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Totally. So question. How did you all go about having a child? We are thinking of starting a family, but we are so broke and adopting is so beyond expensive.
Yeah.
As is IVF. We have thought about fostering, but our first child is 14 And that kind of kills it for me. I think that that's the end of the sentence. But yeah.
Okay.
So, do you want to start
you
this
have baby?
Or
So we went into the woods and we found a tree that had 4 leaves on it. No. So IVF is really expensive. And to be clear, we did not do IVF.
And we were very lucky that we didn't have to.
Yeah, that's true.
So basically we went to a fertility clinic and the doctor said, I see no reason why we would start IVF unless we are unsuccessful with IUI. Mm-hmm. And so we did 5 rounds of IUI, and our last round, 6 rounds.
I think our 6th round we hit it.
6 rounds, and all I remember is that our very last round we had both decided and kind of knew that had to be our last round because it was the last of our savings.
Right.
And we were counting our blessings with the fact that we didn't have to do IVF because that is so much more expensive. Right. And so, we honestly did not have a lot of savings. Mm-mm. And we kind of were just...
Should I share what I actually spent? Because I actually know how much we had in savings.
Sure.
Okay. So if my memory serves me correct, we spent about anywhere from $5,000 to $6,000 in total over the course of those 5. So that includes all of the that includes the sperm, the shipment, since we had to do every time we had to do another shipment. It includes the actual, what was it called? IUI?
Yeah, IUI is the procedure.
The procedure included, I think the procedure each time was either, the 400 keeps coming to mind, but maybe it was 250. Mm-hmm. All I know is that we had saved a certain amount of money, and then we were like, if we don't stop now and give ourselves a mental break and a money break, we're going to completely run out, and then we're going to feel like we can't actually try again. So it was anywhere from $5,000 to $6,000 for all 5 or 6 tries. We have to go back in the memory bank here. I swear, when you have a kid, I feel like the first 5 years you just forget things so that you keep your baby. Mm-hmm. You keep going. You just forget how tired you are.
You're in a survival mode.
So that's how much it cost. We had a donor, and I know many people who use different sperm banks. Mm-hmm. I know people who buy 4 different vials. So if you want to have other kids or you want to continue to try multiple times.
Right.
I also know people who buy all the vials, so that there could be no other kids by that particular sperm donor. And that all ranges in prices. There's, you could do the whole, fertility treatments. There's a lot of different things. But my biggest advice when it comes to the money is so many people go straight to IVF, but it's if you have no indication that for the person who's birthing, if there's no indication that you should have any problems conceiving a child, then don't go straight to IVF. You don't need to. We actually tried at home one time.
Yeah,
one of the times we tried at home.
Yeah, the first time
which was super cheaper
because
you just have to pay for the shipment and pay for certain things. So it was way cheaper. If that was $400, that was $95 or something. It didn't work. But I know someone else who tried 3 different times, all at home, and it worked. Yeah. And she got pregnant. So it really depends. It can be really, really expensive, or it cannot be. And
Yeah, I will say that before we did the research and found out the facts of how much it was going to cost, I had in my head, and I think that a lot of people do, that we can't afford it. It's way too expensive.
Right.
And so I was pleasantly surprised that we can start this process and we can start trying with the least expensive methods first and see if that works. And we were really lucky that we were able to do it within our means and within what we had.
We saved for a while. We were saving for probably like 2 years before we actually started. Like we just started saving in general, and then we chose to spend we didn't save with the intention, but we saved to just save, and then we were like, let's spend the money on having a family. So I think that you can go at your own pace.
Yeah.
And there are definitely techniques if you want to do it at home or if you want to get it in the first couple of tries. Like I will say that you measure your progesterone. Is that what it is? You like measure something, and then when it peaks, you do the insemination. But I will say once we bought, and like no sponsorship here, the Clear Blue. Remember, it was
the ovulation kit that has the smiley face on it, whichever one
I think it's called Clear Blue.
Like it gives you a smiley face when you're ovulating.
It's like a kit.
That one worked
I remember
for
we
us.
bought it, and it was like $69.99, and I was like, oh my god, are we really going to spend this money? What if it doesn't work? But I swear, once we got that kit, it worked.
Well, and it was just clear. Like it was
I had a friend
smiling, awesome.
I had a friend who had tried once, and I was like, you got to get the Clear Blue sticks, man. You got to get them. He got them. Next time got pregnant. So it's about the calculation and stuff too. So just, you know.
And we, tracking all of it through an app. There's a lot of apps you can use to track, but like just being on top of that tracking really helped us.
But I would say that, it doesn't hurt. So insurance didn't cover anything except for your blood work. So when you would get blood work to see if you were actually pregnant, besides the test, you have to go in and get blood work 2 weeks later. That was the only thing that was covered. Nothing else got covered. But I will say it's always worth going in and talking to because regardless if you're going to do IUI, IVF, or do it at home, you have to go to a fertility center and meet with a doctor because they'll probably take your blood work. They'll check you out and see if there's any indications of red flags of why you might have trouble. But it doesn't hurt to go to them because then you can find out, how much would it be for the mailing of the specimen? Like, how much does it cost to get an IUI? Like, because then you can actually see if you're like, okay, well, we want to have a baby in the next 4 years. We're going to start trying in a year from now, and we're going to try 3 times each year for 2 years before we get serious about it. You know what I mean? Because, like, it's intense emotionally.
It is.
Like we would have stopped for probably a few months.
I think the thing about being a trans and cis couple or like, doing this in a way where you have to be so conscious of all of the steps.
You get 1 shot a month.
And, there is no accidental, I didn't know this thing happened. Like, it's very like, we're doing this thing and we're hoping for this outcome. And there are a million different ways that this can go in terms of like emotions, know, because you can't prepare yourself for what emotions are going to be present and how emotionally exhausting it can be. And there's just so many different scenarios. And honestly, like as hard as it was for us, like I feel like we were lucky compared to stories I've heard. So
and it's pretty common. It's pretty common 3, 6, 7 times. But there are people who get it in 1. So are those people who sign up for the mailing list?
Yes.
Exciting.
So we're excited to get our mailing list started. Yeah. So
all right, let's do another question.
Another question. Okay. How do you balance self-care when being so busy with parenting, work, your relationships, etc.? What are some of your favorite ways that you practice self-care?
I feel like I've gotten worse at my self-care since having a kid. I think I was really bad at it when we first got together. Learned a lot from Jenny Lee, learned a lot from other friends, and got new practices that we did together that I did alone. And that was really great for me. And I feel like I was peaked self-care, which is probably why I was like, let's do this thing with the baby. Although I was still very nervous and did not feel prepared. now I feel like I am aware that my self-care needs to be better, but I wouldn't say I'm any type of example. Like, I feel like I can say without being cocky, but being confident that like I was a pretty good example of self-care. I meditated, I worked out, I took hikes, I started making room for friends. Like, I started doing a lot of things that I didn't do before. And they made me, I was, like we were dancing all the time. Like, I feel like my self-care was pretty on the spectrum of really good, but really dropped off since. So what I do for self-care, managing time is the best self-care for me. So my self-care comes down to like making sure I'm going to bed on time, because I know that I don't feel good when I don't go to sleep on time, or if I go to bed too late. Managing when I wake up, because I notice if I wake up too late, then it throws off my whole day. I go to the gym every morning, and that's my own kind of self-care time, because I'm away from the family. I get to work out, which makes me feel good, both like in my body as a trans person, movement. My body really loves to move. My job is sedentary. I'm just sitting the whole time. So that's really helpful for me. And then making like, more recently I've been trying to make better choices around food and when I'm eating and how much I'm eating, as well as like drinking. How much am I drinking? That's like more recent though. But I don't, unfortunately I don't do any of those other things. But my week off, we're going to go on a hike.
Yeah. Excited about that.
Yeah. I want to like go to a coffee shop and like hang out by myself. Like I want to spend, it's only 3 days. I'm kind of romanticizing 3 days, but I'm going to try to spend a little more me time. So I wouldn't say I'm the best example, but I try. And I think that alone gives me more time. Like, I try to hang out with my friends. I try to, consciously be like, we're going to do something fun together that's not work related or life related. It's just like something for us to do. I try to, you know what I mean? Like, think about things that I can do alone. So I used to be better. Call to action. Here we go.
It used to be different. It just used to be different. I think self-care as parents, like it's different because there's always another person to consider, right? So I think for me, it has been smaller things, like just like recognizing like what is like the low lift thing available to me right here in this moment that would make things better or make me feel better or invite comfort. I feel like my relationship with self-care used to be these big things, like these beautiful baths I would take and like things that took more time. And now it's really about like, taking a short walk or just like laying down for a few minutes, even if it's not like I'm not taking a nap, but I'm just like resting or, deciding like when I'm not feeling good, when I'm not in a good state, like what is going to be helpful and just being honest with myself about what that is, because I used to just be like, well, this is what self-care is. And if I'm not doing these things, then it doesn't matter. And now I'm just like, no, like self-care is like tapping into what I really need.
I love this.
And
you're speaking to me.
And yeah.
Because I think I'm comparing my old self-care to now.
Yeah. And mine isn't the same either, babe.
No, I mean, I know. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Like mine isn't the same
but
as it was.
But it's a good call out. And reminder to myself, like, what used to be, just because I'm not doing that doesn't mean I'm not doing anything. It doesn't mean I can't make space for new or different things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you discount the things that you are doing because you do them you're so consistent. Like it's, like you're not considering like, getting up at 5 to go to the gym by yourself, like big, but that's big. I mean, I don't do that. Like Aydian's really good with consistency, whereas like I'm really working on like finding a sense of that. I'm good at like spontaneous self-care. And like I could really benefit from like more consistent.
I'm so bad at spontaneous self-care. I'm like, who's got time for that?
Yeah. But yeah, I think just like softening into what I really need is a big self-care for me these days. Yeah. Just like, and I use a pendulum for most of my decisions. And so sometimes, and I don't know what I need, I'll like make a list of things that are available to me and I'll just use that to pick something because I don't have the energy to pick it. And that can be helpful. But yeah, just like small delights, small things that can shift energy and shift moods is more of my self-care vibe right now.
Yeah. Was the question like, what, reread the question?
And reading is a huge self-care for me that wasn't really there as much when like before I had Anthem.
Yeah, it's true.
Because like it helps me.
You read it so much more now.
Yeah, like
not like you didn't read, but
it helps me. Like it forces me out of my story and into somebody else's story, and that I need.
She reads fiction, corny fiction, whatever you need. You know, I mean, listen, I watch grown men smash into each other every Sunday, and then get upset when they lose, and so
yeah. So I think like again, I'm coming back to like, don't compare your self-care to other people's self-care. Don't look on Instagram for self-care, right?
Oh my gosh, imagine I would laugh at me now. Like if I saw myself meditating and being like, this is what I do for self-care. If I made like an Instagram video and I watch it now, I'd be like, okay, I don't got time for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd be like, okay, that must be nice not having kids. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like,
I think just remembering, like trying to break down the words self-care. Like, what does that look like for me today? Honestly, like in the time frame I have, with the mood that I'm in, with like all of the factors at play, like how can I take care of myself? And like not judging it. Not judging it. And just like being like, yeah, this is what it is. And this is what I'm doing.
I think like as parents too, like when you're talking about this, I'm like, oh, what would I do if I did an hour a day for self-care, or even a half hour? It's like, I feel like I'm always like, well, it has to be great. What if it doesn't work? What if I only have a half hour? What am I going to do? Oh my gosh, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think it's, like there's a lack mentality of fear that like you're not going to get it in, but I like everything you're saying.
Like similar to like orgasm anxiety, like self-care anxiety, like like I don't have a lot of time.
It's not like you're always going to
want to feel better,
but it doesn't mean you're going to feel better.
Right.
So
exactly. But like just knowing that like you showed up for it is like a step in that right direction, I think.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for all of the questions. Keep them coming.
Yeah.
As I said, link in the description box below. We'll also have, what else will be down there? All of the links will be down there. You can like, comment, subscribe, share, invite your friends in, your partner if you're listening to this alone. And anything you want to add before we sign off?
Keep the questions coming. I got so excited about all of these new questions. So keep them coming. We love them. Comment and share.
Let us know your thoughts too. Like, I love when people are like, oh, actually, this is what I would do for self-care, and this is what I do. Like, I think that's helpful because then other people who are watching also see the comments and can have conversations. So do that.
Yeah, and let us know what your favorite part of the video is. Because, like, I think that we're always, like, trying to figure out, like, oh, well, what part of it should we share on social media? You know, it's like, well, what's your favorite part?
Yeah, I'd be curious.
Yeah.
I mean, I make the posts at the same time, but at least it'll give me a sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Just always open to
feedback,
your opinions and
thoughts.
feedback.
Okay, that's it.
All right. Bye.
Bye.